In an attempt to get ahead in life financially, I worked 2 full-time remote jobs at the same time, and I thought it would get me closer to achieving my dream of financial freedom. But after a year of 18-hour workdays and sacrificing what little social life I had, I realized all that work was for nothing when I got an urgent bill in the mail from the IRS. I've been working as a technical recruiter for the past several years, mainly helping companies find and hire software engineers. And one day, I got an opportunity of a lifetime when I was extended an offer to join one of the largest, most successful FAANG companies in the world. And if you're wondering, FAANG stands for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Leave me a comment if you can guess which company it was. It was the first 6-figure offer that I had ever gotten, and it would no doubt help me achieve my financial goal, so I had to do it. And although I was so excited to take this step, it's the first thing that led to the IRS sending me the most bone-chilling bill that I'd ever received. Now for this job, it wasn't as noticeable because taxes were taken out of my paycheck before I ever actually got it. But regardless, thousands of dollars was being routed to the IRS every month out of my earnings from the hard work that I was putting in for the company. And although I was making a decent living from this one job, I was determined to find a way to make extra income because I planned to buy a house as soon as I possibly could. I got into every side hustle that I could think of, but none of them ended up moving the needle.
This is a side hustle, right?
Then coincidentally, one of the most well-kept secrets was leaked and started sweeping the nation. A term coined overemployment was being talked about in every Reddit thread, discussed on the air of popular finance influencers, and even headlined in national news articles. After looking into it more, people were actually working multiple full-time jobs while managing to juggle an insane workload while 2, 3, or even 4xing their income. So I had to see what all the hype was about. I started to look around for any open recruiting positions that I could juggle alongside my current job. It just so happened that a friend of mine at the time was working for a company that had just notified them of a massive hiring ramp that they were going to be starting ASAP, which included 4 openings for technical recruiters. So I thought, what the heck, I'll go ahead and apply to the role, not expecting I was going to get a call back at all. But when they said they were trying to hire ASAP, they really meant it. I had gotten a message from the company that day, and within a week, I interviewed with the team and they extended me an offer to join them. And this would be my opportunity to join the ranks of the overemployed. Once I received the offer letter, this was another 6-figure position and the main reason that I got put on the radar for the IRS. See, the difference between this role and my original FAANG company position is that I was hired on as something called a 1099 contractor. Essentially what that means is instead of taxes being automatically taken out of my paycheck before I received it, I would be given all the money from my paycheck and then I'd be responsible for paying the IRS on my own. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was a major mistake because I'm terribly irresponsible. Now at this point, you might be asking yourself, how can somebody go about working 2 full-time jobs for 2 separate companies? And the truth is, this had a bit to do with that. Because of the impacts of these unfortunate and catastrophic events, it changed the dynamic of the workforce as we know it. This article shows that before the pandemic, about 4% of employees in the US worked remotely. And by May of 2020, that number rose to 43%. And for white-collar workers, a whopping 65%. With both of the jobs being remote, it made things more manageable, but it certainly wasn't easy. I'd usually start my workday around 6 a.m., and some nights I wouldn't wrap up until close to midnight. And although I was collecting 2 paychecks at once, there were times where I felt like I was going to completely lose my mind. But I kept at it because it was going to get me that much closer to accomplishing my financial dreams. Or so I thought. I had worked around the clock for nearly a year for both companies, and now had come a time that I've been dreading for months. Tax season. I started getting documents in the mail from both of my employers, and the first of which came from the original FAANG company that you may or may not have guessed correctly yet. And what I saw was sickening. They sent me what's known as a W-2, which is an overview of the earnings that I made with them the previous year. But it also shows how much tax was taken out of those earnings by the IRS. And this was broken up into a few different categories. For federal income tax, which is paid directly to the US government, I sent $19,500 their way. The other two categories can be considered contributions that are held by the IRS. The first of the two is Social Security tax, in which they held $7,135. And lastly, Medicare tax, where $1,668 was held. So in total for the year, the amount that I paid the IRS for job number 1 was $28,303. Now, as much as that number hurt me to see, it wasn't nearly as painful as what I owed the IRS for job number 2. And remember, for the second job, I was hired as a 1099 contractor, so taxes were not automatically taken out of my check. So technically, I still owed the IRS their money. About a week later, I got the document in the mail giving me an overview of my earnings for job number 2. And because I had no idea what to do with this document, I had to find somebody to help me fast. So I started the search for a professional accountant who could file my taxes and tell me exactly what I owed. And let me tell you, this was no walk in the park. I virtually met with several CPAs, and I felt like each one of them was talking over my head, using phrases and acronyms that they knew I didn't understand. And I walked away from every meeting feeling like an idiot. I mean, one guy that tried to explain the whole process to me might as well have been speaking Swahili. Finally, after a couple weeks, I found an accountant that I felt I could trust and that explained everything to me in a way that I could understand. So I sent him all of my documents and he started working on my file. A couple days later, we met back on a video call where I would find out truly how much money I was about to cough up. He ran through a couple of things and then sent me an email with a form listing out exactly how much I owed. Yep, you saw that right. $56,854. I felt like somebody passed away. And it wasn't like I could get out of paying this bill, because we all know Uncle Sam is going to get his. I've heard stories of the IRS seizing people's properties or even garnishing their wages for not paying their taxes, so I had to take care of this immediately. So eventually, after much prayer and meditation, I swallowed my pride and logged into the IRS website to pay my dues. So in total, after working 2 full-time remote jobs for about a year, I ended up paying $85,157 in taxes to the IRS. And after 12 months of 18-hour workdays, I had a massive portion of my income just disappear in the click of a button. And I didn't come as close as I thought I would to achieving any of my financial dreams. But I was able to invest in a few things that help generate passive income now, so at least I don't have to work as hard in the future. And if you want to learn more about that, consider hitting the thumbs up button on this video and subscribing to my channel. But I still can't say that it was worth it working 2 full-time remote jobs. And not because of the long hours or sacrifice of a social life, or even the amount of money that I paid to the IRS. It's more so because of the judgment and criticism that I've gotten for working multiple jobs. I've been accused of taking positions from those that are less fortunate and even contributing to the unemployment rate within the country. I even had one of the most well-known financial influencers in the world accuse me of stealing money while he was live on air. And if you want to see exactly what he had to say and how I handled it, you can check it out now by clicking into this video next.